Prime Minister Narendra Modi will begin his three-day state visit to Israel today. Prime Minister Modi is the first Indian Prime Minister to visit Tel Aviv. During his three-day visit, the Indian Prime Minister will call upon the Israeli President Reuven Rivlin. He will be holding bilateral talks with his Israeli counterpart Benjamin Netanyahu. Earlier, in an interview to an Israeli newspaper, WION, Prime Minister said the two countries are ready to take the relationship to a new level, calling Israel a technological powerhouse. Prime Minister Modi's visit comes at a time when India and Israel are marking 25 years of their official ties. Prime Minister Modi will be received by his Israeli counterpart Benjamin Netanyahu, who would also be accompanying Prime Minister Modi throughout his visit. During his two-day-long visit to Israel, Prime Minister Modi will be attending 18 programs, which include bilateral meetings, meetings with top Israeli CEOs, NRIs, and students. Diplomatic ties with Israel were first established under the leadership of P.V. Narasimha Rao in 2003. Then Israeli Prime Minister Ariel Sharon visited India after the Atal Bihari Vajpayee government invited him. And finally, Prime Minister Narendra Modi decided to visit Israel, becoming the first Indian Prime Minister to visit the nation. Our correspondent Kartikesh Sharma is tracking the very latest. Will in fact be getting us minute-by-minute updates from on ground. Hi Kartikeya, it is a big day for India-Israel ties, isn't it? And also a sample of how important this visit is can be gauged from how the Israeli Prime Minister will be escorting the Indian Prime Minister throughout that visit.
Yes, it's like an acknowledgement of the relationship. For me, if you ask me, it's not as if India and Israel have not been dealing with each other post 1991. India increased its engagement with the state of Israel, but it's not like publicly you acknowledge the relationship, you sanctify it. You'll have a bit of pomp, you'll have a bit of special gestures on part of the Israeli government. I see it from that perspective. On this issue, I'm joined by the resident editor of the Hindu and the foreign policy expert Suhasini Haidar. Suhasini, today the Prime Minister is going to come. Is the reception going to be the different from the sort of reception which other head of states receives from Israel?
Well, certainly, when Prime Minister Modi lands in Israel at Tel Aviv airport, what we're expecting to see is a welcome, we are told, is reserved only for the Pope and for the US President. And you know what kind of status they have here in this country. So Prime Minister Modi will be accompanied the entire time by Prime Minister Netanyahu. We believe the red carpet welcome will include a welcome by the entire Israeli cabinet, also by priests and rabbis and imams. Coming there. It's certainly supposed to be an extremely important occasion for the Israeli government as well. And as you pointed out, it is what they are calling a formal coming out of the relationship. That you've been in a relationship for 25 years, but no Indian Prime Minister has come here. I think what officials were saying is that there was a normalization process that began in 1992. Sometimes it went fast, sometimes it went slow. But this is the end of the normalization process, after which they expect relations to really soar.
What will be the focus? Is it only about military, or are we talking about civilian technology or cooperation in other spheres or agriculture or things which are not in public domain?
You know, this is the most interesting part about this visit, because India and Israel are known as defense partners before they're known as anything else. Israel has provided India with necessary ammunition, with different defense equipment when it needed it most in 1971, during the Kargil War as well. But this particular visit, officials have gone out of their way to say will have no defense component. In fact, even the strategic partnership that the two countries will sign is called on non-security issues, which is agriculture, water particularly, science and technology, space cooperation. These are issues that normally, find their way down in the bottom of a joint statement between two countries. But I think that there's two parts to it. One, India still wants to take this slowly, not jump into a strategic partnership with Israel immediately, because there are other geopolitical considerations in place. And the second part to it is that Israel Israel too wants to showcase things other than, they don't just want to be seen as an arms suppliers. They don't just want to be seen as a defense merchant, if you like. They want to actually be seen as a serious country that can help India on many issues. And water desalinization is just one of them. It seems like a boring issue, but it is an important
But isn't it also about some sort of a moral sanctity? Nehru's foreign affairs, the perspective of the world. Then came Indira, Rajiv Gandhi, the acknowledgement of the fact that India has a sizable minority, their position, their worldview on the world, and the coming of the Prime Minister. Isn't that also important for Israel?
India has had a traditional support for the Palestinian cause. There's no getting around it. Even Mahatma Gandhi, while he supported the Zionist cause for a separate homeland, he said it cannot be an occupying force. Just as we throw off the colonial yoke, we cannot see a new kind of colonialism. But I think for too many decades, this idea has been held out that it is only India's minorities that are holding back India-Israel relations. I don't think that was the truth. I think there was a genuine support for the Palestinian cause, and now geopolitics has changed. There is an affinity with Israel which is coming to the fore, and this is about that relationship, that Indians and Israelis feel a certain common bond. After all, they do fight terror in the same way. They feel the world doesn't understand necessarily their war against terror. They are countries that have difficult relationships between faiths, but they keep all those faiths. So I think that there is this affinity that is really coming to the fore in this particular relationship. Apart from it is the fact that Prime Minister Modi and Mr.
So you are saying that there's a feeling between both the establishments that both India and Israel can engage and collaborate with each other beyond terrorism, beyond intelligence.
Well, I think that's what they want to portray. They don't want this to be a relationship really just based on arms and how much India is buying and how much Israel is selling. They want to broaden that relationship so that they can increase ties between the two countries. And that's what this trip is an attempt to. How many times have you heard officials ahead of an important visit like this one saying there is no security component to that? Normally it is a security component.
And lastly, before I let go of you, the establishment doesn't want the security to dominate the headlines, but you still have a joint statement.
That's right. And what we understand from that joint statement again is it will talk about the strategic partnership on non-security issues. They'll certainly talk a little bit about counter-terror. Cyber security is going to be a very important part of this, as well as R&D. In fact, if you look at Mr. Modi's visit and you look at how the meetings have been planned, a lot of it depends on Israeli innovation, on looking at technologies, floriculture, that sort of thing. So even Prime Minister Modi in an interview to an Israeli paper has said that we want to talk about everything from USBs to cherry tomatoes. And that gives you an idea of where he wants to go with this.
Thank you, Suhasini. And it's also not about just about civilian technologies. It's also about Moshe. He's going to spend some time there. Suhasini, I said I let go of you, but this question slipped my mind. Isn't that a significant gesture for him to take that time out? Because when we talk about that child, it reminds us of that barbaric episode of 2008.
Yes, absolutely. And baby Moishe has become a symbol of the Mumbai siege because he lost his parents. But it was an Indian lady, his nanny, Sandra, who actually brought him out of there safely. And he was able to come to his grandparents here in Israel. There's another part to it. During 2008, Israel had hoped that there was better cooperation between the two and they could have helped India with some of the counter-terror moves in those 3 days during 26/11. That wasn't possible then. And the idea is we will not allow this to happen again. The fact that the terrorists, the Lashkar-e-Toiba terrorists who were in Mumbai attacked not just Indian installations but the Chabad house in particular, meant that India and Israel somewhere there face the same kind of threat. And that's why you heard the most senior official of the Israeli Foreign Ministry say yesterday that for us there's no difference between Hamas and Lashkar-e-Toiba.
So, Molly, I think that's the best way to to see the trip of the Prime Minister in this perspective, that it's not only going to be about security, defense. I think Prime Minister wants to take it further, wants to include certain civilian areas which were not talked about. And I would say that you have to see from the panopticon the way he's going to be received at the airport by the Israeli government.
Absolutely.
And as Suhasini said, something which is only reserved for the Pope and the US presidents.
Absolutely, Karthikeyan. And also one cannot help but stress
Please
on
go.
how...
Yes, please go ahead, Molly.
Yes, stress on how the Indian Ministry of External Affairs in the run-up to this crucial visit has been stressing on how Israel has expressed great willingness to court the MEA in Prime Minister Modi's flagship schemes, be it Clean Ganga, be it Make in India, be it smart cities. So that in a way is also telling us that this visit looks beyond defense ties.
Yes, it does. It's also focusing on space collaboration. They're also going to take a lot of time out for other things which generally don't. People like me, when we go out abroad and cover, we don't actually go and cover them because we don't find it important. Like Swasti, for the first event of the day, he goes to an agriculture university, and there are 6 Indians being trained there, and they'll be made available for the press to speak to or talk about their experiences.
That's right. And I think floriculture is something where India and Israel started to make a partnership long before even the normalization of ties, full diplomatic relations in 1992. Israel's drip irrigation technology you will find across India now, in Rajasthan in particular, places that don't have much water. So that's what Prime Minister Modi wants to really highlight and celebrate in a sense. Remember that his visits to Israel came when he was Chief Minister. This is his first visit as Prime Minister, and he wants to make the point that he knows this country and he knows what the country can offer India, which is what he wants to showcase as well. And I think that on the Israeli side, remember, this is a country that is used to rebuffs from the international community. They are used to being seen as a pariah state, as they themselves said. For them, this visit also does really mean a lot in terms of someone of India coming out and saying we are willing to not just acknowledge the relationship, that Prime Minister Modi is making a standalone visit here, not going to Palestine, is also important.
And to stay put in Jerusalem, all the official meetings here, not in Tel Aviv. Should we read something into it?
Well, I think you have to have the official meetings in Jerusalem because this is where the government sits. But the Prime Minister will go to Tel Aviv as well. He's holding his business CEOs forum over there. I think the truth is that it is a departure from the past in terms of not going to Ramallah or to Bethlehem as other Indian leaders have. But it's something that India has tried to balance. Remember, Prime Minister Modi wanted to come to Israel as soon as he became Prime Minister. Ms. Sushma Swaraj said it in her first briefing as PM. Way back in 2014.
So Hassan, I request you to just hold your thoughts there. These are live visuals that we are getting for our viewers. The Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi embarking on that crucial visit to Israel. As we've been discussing, this is a visit which looks beyond just defense ties, a host of issues on the table, as the Israel Foreign Office also addressed the media, talking about how this goes a step further from traditional diplomacy. This also looks at various facets and nothing is off the table as far as this crucial visit is concerned. The Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi embarking on a 3-day state visit to Israel, a grand welcome in store, as we've been discussing, one which is reserved for the Pope and for the President of the United States. Also important to highlight here that the Israeli Prime Minister will be escorting his Indian counterpart throughout that visit. And a host of issues, like we've been mentioning, apart from defense issues, cultural ties, water management, also looking at how the Ministry of External Affairs of India has already stressed on how Israel has shown great willingness over the last 3 years when it comes to the Make in India scheme, when it comes to smart cities. Let's go straight back across to our correspondent Kartikeya Sharma, who's been getting us the very latest from on ground. Kartikeya, there we have it, the Indian Prime Minister embarking on that visit.
Oh yes, the visuals have come. The Prime Minister has left. The landing time of the Prime Minister is any time after 3 p.m. here. After the ceremonial reception, he'll go to the Agriculture University, and we'll be also going there because we've been we have been told that 6 to 7 Indians have been trained for past 6 or 7 months here in the various modern the techniques, what you call the precision agriculture farming. Once he's done with that, he's also going to visit the Holocaust Memorial. He's going to spend some time there. I've been told that he, 45 to 50 minutes have been allocated for the Prime Minister for the Holocaust Memorial there. So, these are the two important things which the Prime Minister is going to do. And once that being done, he's going to have dinner with his counterpart in Jerusalem. And then he stays put in Jerusalem. And for next, I would say, 72 to 80 hours, you have back-to-back meetings of the Indian Prime Minister. Yes, if you look at the city, and I'll ask my camera person to pan a bit. I'm standing in the square of Jerusalem. It's not like a clamp down, but there is a lot of security. If you look here, you don't find the traffic unusually high because the special arrangements are being made. So that way, and it's a very small city. Jerusalem is not as big as Delhi or the sort of imagination we have of Mumbai. It's a very small place, but it joins the West Bank. So and it's the seat of power of the Israeli state. So that way, I would say that it holds a lot of significance. And Prime Minister, for him to invest that much of time with his Israeli counterpart is also very important. But today, the pomp, I would say, and I can assure you, Molly, the pomp and show at the airport is going to impress everyone. They are doing it, as my colleague was saying, which is something reserved for the popes or the US president. So for the Indian Prime Minister to be felicitated like that in Tel Aviv would be some show, Molly, I'm sure.
Right, so a grand welcome in store. We're just a few hours away from the Indian Prime Minister arriving in Israel, the first such visit by an Indian Prime Minister, a crucial visit at that over the next 3 days. We will be getting you minute-by-minute updates and developments from on ground with the help of our correspondent Kartikeya Sharma, who's been stationed there. Kartikeya, you've been speaking to the locals there as well. What's their reaction when it comes to this crucial visit?
See, in fact, last evening I did a Facebook Live for WION, and I'd gone to the shawarma joint, which is bang opposite this wall, and I was asking him. He said the people of Israel feel very excited about Narendra Modi, and at the level of the working class, there is an acknowledgement and there is an understanding. They have an idea as to who Narendra Modi is. And when I was coming from the airport yesterday, I was so stunned, Molly. And this is not a figment of my imagination. He says that we know what Narendra Modi wants from us, and we know what we want from India. I said, what do you give it to India? He said, we give technology to India. And I said, what do you want from India? He said, we want land. And then he said this. He said, space technology. India is the best. So people have a basic idea in terms of give and take. And what is important is that the sense of acknowledgement which is happening, the people in Israel are kind of liking it, that India has acknowledged it publicly, and so much time is being invested. And secondly, Molly, for them to know about the fact that India excels in space technology is something I was really taken aback. But then I would again say that India and Israel needs to partner closer. The mistakes of 2008 should not be repeated. The compulsion of domestic politics must not impinge on our foreign policy, because foreign policy is about the interest of the nation, not domestic constituencies and their sectional interests.
Right, and taking a leaf out of from that conversation that you were just having with Suhasini Haider as well, Kartikeya, nothing is off the table, as the Israel Foreign Office had very categorically mentioned yesterday when questions were put to them about the agenda for this meeting. And if I can just go back to the latest statement that came in just this morning from the Israeli ambassador to India, and if I can quote the same: terrorism is always on our table because both countries are facing terrorism as a major threat, as a new battleground. So terrorism also, Kartikeya, is expected to come up for discussion.
Well, absolutely. It's not as terrorism is not going to come. You see, terrorism has been the basis on which the relationship worked, evolved. But Prime Minister Modi wants to take it further. You see, it's like saying that, India and Israel is only going to be about terrorism. Look at the way in which, they deploy the security. You can't see it, but it's present there. It's not intrusive at all. But that's one part. That's being monodimensional. He is taking it to areas where people thought that those are not relevant things. What Modi is doing is that he is integrating Israeli-Indian relationship. He's making it holistic. Defense and security is only one interest. He is symbolically, morally trying to tie up the relationship. You know, it's like, what was the need of Nathan, you know, the Israeli Prime Minister to come with rabbis and imams and bishops? You know, what I mean to say, why religious heads are being called here? For the fact that Israel rests on a place which is like called the area of an ancient civilization, where three religions continue to jostle with each other on sacred spots and political sanctity. And it is there that the Prime Minister gets his acknowledgement. I also see it from this perspective, apart from many others, but then there's also going to be a diaspora rally. I'm very much interested. A lot of Indians are going to come here. It's just right off the block, Molly. You know, this is the square where I'm standing. A kilometer away from this place will be the diaspora rally, and it's going to happen tomorrow. And Molly, I'm going to take you there with all our viewers of the WION, and this diaspora rally, Prime Minister is going to spend 2 hours there, but that's for tomorrow. Today there's political brass tacks. Morning you have again political and security engagements. Evening you have the diaspora rally, and day after tomorrow you have a lot of meetings with the CEOs. All the top CEOs of Israel and India are going to descend there. They're going to meet the Prime Minister, and the Prime Minister is going to, you know, engage with all of them so that their collaboration can increase.
Absolutely, Kartikeya. Do continue to get us a sample of that colour and the kind of arrangements that are in store for that grand welcome that the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be accorded when he arrives in Israel in just a few hours from now. In fact, just a short while back, remember, we got you those visuals of the Indian Prime Minister embarking on that crucial state visit to Israel. All eyes on what's in store, what lies ahead over the next 3 days. Our correspondent Kartikeya Sharma stationed on the ground to track the minute-by-minute developments. Let's leave it there for the moment, Kartikeya. Appreciate those details and live inputs coming in.